Stree Slurps.
Hello everyone, what's going on listeners? This is Adam here with Laura, and we have got a very special episode for you this time.
Never before heard.
Never before heard, hopefully like the rest of our episodes, but especially this one. This one is a very special episode. I can't say it enough. This one was actually recorded months ago. This was recorded about October of 2021.
Yep.
And it just didn't get out there. It was recorded on that time. It's a special Halloween sort of episode. It was a Bollywood film that we recorded and reviewed. And I can't wait for you to hear it. Laura, tell us what movie we're talking about here.
Yeah, so this episode will be featuring the movie Stree. As Adam said, kind of a spooky, Halloween-y Bollywood movie, which we don't watch a lot of, so it's very interesting to watch and to review.
So listeners, sit back. We'll tell you all about it. Open your ears, open your eyes, most importantly, open your ears. Listen up. We're going to tell you all about it. And welcome to Screen Slurps, the movie review podcast where we discuss everything that is good, that is bad, and that is savage in the world of cinema. I'm Adam Meisner here with Laura Herlocker. And Laura, are you a witch?
I mean, no comment.
I take that as a yes.
No.
You're going to take me and leave only my clothing?
I like really witchy things, but I myself am not a witch.
You are the one they call Stree?
Well, I mean, Stree means woman, so I am a woman.
I hope so.
Surprise!
I hope that's true. My goodness. What is this podcast turning into? Anyways, this week's episode is about a movie called Stree.
Surprise! If you couldn't have guessed.
Oh my goodness. And if you couldn't have guessed already, as if our hints were not enough for you, the movie Stree is about a witch. And yeah.
Yeah, or ghost.
Yeah.
A witch and a ghost.
Yeah, something like that.
It's a spooky Bollywood. We'll go with that for now.
Yeah, and it's certainly interesting. Let's put it that way. Laura, what can you tell us about Stree?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much you want to get into it before we really get started.
Can you give me a hint?
I mean, what you said in the beginning, ghost, steal man, leave clothes.
That's okay. That's a good disclaimer. So we'll get more into it as we go along, but that's a good giveaway just to start off. But
who is the other woman?
Before we get too much into it, we're going to go into something we call our side slurps. That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, our side slurps are what we like to talk about before we get into our main discussion for the week. And our side slurps, for those who don't know, are the things we do other than talk about our main movie. So if you can't hear some side slurps for the week, might be the cat that's in the background.
I'm sorry. Our cat is very unhappy that we're in a room without her.
She likes to be a side slurp sometimes.
She just wants to be a guest host also. She wants to talk about her favorite movies.
She likes to meow and become a podcast herself. When she's not a side slurp, sometimes some things we like to do are watch television shows that aren't the main movie of the week. Sometimes we like to make arts and crafts. It can be any one of those things. And sometimes those are the side slurps that we like to do. But I don't know all the side slurps all the time. So, Laura, what are some of the side slurps that you have been up to?
So for my side slurps this week, as I talked about last episode, we are now in spooky season. So I've been forcing Adam to watch a lot of my favorite Halloween time movies. So we watched Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman. I watched The Priest, but I actually kind of fell asleep on it. So I don't know if I can include that. We watched Clue, which is a great movie. I don't know if you were talking about that, Adam. So sorry if I stole it from you.
I think you're okay.
But just a variety of Halloween movies, honestly. And then for my book of the week, I read The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie. It's actually the first of her novels to feature Poirot, one of her main detectives that she writes about all the time. So that was a lot of fun, getting to finally see like his first introduction to the world. It was good. I love Agatha Christie. I think they're a great like sit down, read in one sitting, fun little true crime. So I always like her books. And then lastly, actually, we have been doing a little bit of arts and crafts this week. We are going to a midnight showing of Rocky Horror Picture Show in a few weeks. So Adam and I are currently in the midst of creating our costumes for that. So I've been doing a little creation yesterday and today on that. I think that's it. I think that's it for Side Slurps. My apologies about the cat. Adam, what have you been doing this week?
Some of the things that I've been up to this past week, Laura and I recently watched the movie Hubie Halloween, one of the newest Adam Sandler movies to just come out.
I think, did it come out this year?
I think it just came out. It came out for Halloween for this
2020,
year,
last year.
It was last year?
Yeah, I think we just didn't watch it because we're not the biggest Adam Sandler
well,
fans.
My bad, Adam Sandler. I'm sorry. But it very much is like a reincarnation of the classic Happy Madison movies. And it seems a lot like Waterboy or Billy Madison. It's just like the old school Adam Sandler movies. So if you want to relive the old Adam Sandler days, I guess watch Hubie Halloween.
I will say, though, I agree with you. Yes, it is very reminiscent of like early Adam Sandler films. But I really like Billy Madison or Mr. Deeds. I don't really like Waterboy, but, you know, those early Adam Sandler films, I hated this one. I don't know if it's because I'm older.
Agree. I do agree.
Maybe it's because we're older. And so we just have like a little bit more of a sophisticated funny bone. But it is very reminiscent of his early work.
This seems it seems sloppy. It just seems very sloppy and very messy Adam Sandler. And when you watch the older Adam Sandler movies like Waterboy or Billy Madison or something, that was the origination of that. That was the beginning where you saw Adam Sandler sort of create that. And he was making those movies, creating that humor, and starting that style of funny, essentially. And, you know, maybe Adam Sandler watched somebody else do some kind of comedy like that, got an idea, and then made it into something of his own. And then made, you know, Waterboy or something. And then we saw that and we're like, wow, that was really funny. But now we're seeing a movie like Hubie Halloween in 2020, 2021.
Right, like 30 years later or something.
And he's already done that in Waterboy. And he's doing it again in Hubie Halloween. And it's like, okay, that joke was funny the first time. But you doing it again in Hubie Halloween, it's not the same.
Yeah.
And it's really not as funny. It's really like a half-assed joke now rather than an original joke, and it's just not as funny. So
I think it's disappointing too, because after seeing how good of an actor he can be in like Uncut Gems, you know, like that was amazing.
Yes.
And obviously that's like a drama. That's not a comedy. It's not what he usually does. But you can see just how good Adam Sandler can be.
Yeah.
And yet he's still going back to just honestly probably make money, like making these movies for Netflix, which, because he has that other one too with Jennifer Aniston, which we haven't watched yet, called like Murder Mystery. Maybe we should watch it. I don't know. Like he's had a few good ones in the last decade. Like I really liked Blended. That was fun.
I really do love seeing Adam Sandler do very serious roles.
Yeah, he needs to do more like Uncut Gems.
Yeah. He is a very good actor, and it is very nice to see him do very serious roles in serious drama films.
Yeah.
And then to see him in something like this movie, like Hubie Halloween. It's very much like, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, I guess enough on our tangent of Adam Sandler. What else you got, Adam?
Other than Hubie Halloween, on the flip side of that, Laura and I also watched the movie The Guilty, featuring Jake Gyllenhaal, a completely different kind of movie, a bit more dramatic with Jake Gyllenhaal. And that was a very, very different kind of movie, a more dramatic film, a bit more simplistic, much smaller sort of set design and things like that. There wasn't a whole lot of different set changes. It all took place in one kind of set. It was basically Jake Gyllenhaal sitting at a desk for an hour and a half, talking on the phone,
and yet you're riveted.
Yeah, it's a very complex film. There's a lot going on, and I thought it was interesting. I thought it was a very interesting kind of film. I was engaged. I thought it was a very cool movie to watch. I'm just looking right now too, Adam. It is a remake of a 2018 Danish film. So I think we definitely should try and find the original Danish one. That'll be interesting to see. I'm very curious to see that. You know, it's movies like that are always very, very interesting to watch. Yeah. And, well, the cool thing about The Guilty was like, because it is an hour and a half of Jake Gyllenhaal sitting at a desk. Like there's some side characters in the background and you hear a lot of voices because he's on phone calls constantly. But really the focus of the film is on him. And throughout the film, you're slowly piecing things together, right? You don't have the full picture in the beginning, which is why I think this movie keeps you so captivated the entire time. Like we're starting to get pieces. There's this woman that's been abducted, but then you learn maybe she wasn't, you know, and you have like these children. And then you also, there's something going on with Jake Gyllenhaal's character, right? Like he has to go to court tomorrow for something and we're trying to piece together what that is. Like, why is he not out on the beat, right? Why is he working dispatch for 911 calls? And like I said, I think that's what makes this movie so good, is that you slowly get the pieces of that and don't know the full story till the very end. Yeah, the concept of The Guilty, it reminds me very much of the film 12 Angry Men, because 12 Angry Men is also a very simplistic film by nature. You know, it's just all the concept of the film all takes place, you know, in one room, you know. It's not a very complicated sort of concept, really. But you know, you're engaged for, you know, an hour and a half, just watching, you know, for 12 Angry Men, you're just watching 12 dudes just talk about whether or not someone's guilty or not. But it's a simple idea, but even still, it's like it starts off where one guy's saying, I don't think he's guilty. And then 11 other people are saying, like, I think he's guilty. But then by the end of the movie, it's like that completely turns over where everyone is like, OK, they're not guilty. Right. So all you listeners out there, if you have Netflix accounts, don't watch Hubie Halloween. Go watch The Guilty. Yeah, definitely. I would recommend checking out The Guilty. It is a very, very interesting movie. And other than The Guilty, the final movie I most recently watched was Count Me In, which our cat also is recommending right now. They're counting it in. Count Me In is about professional drummers and just a history lesson in drumming, really. And just a lot of different drummers out there, famous drummers, how they got started, and just a whole history lesson in drumming. So lots to learn about drumming. Yeah. Adam, you used to be a drummer back in the day. Yeah, I still play the drums. I don't have a drum kit in our apartment at the moment, but doesn't mean I can't play the drums. It's true. That's true. I shouldn't say used to. You still do. Yep. Love playing the drums. Drums is fun. Drums is fun. Drums is fun. So that is what I have been up to this past week of Side Slurps, ladies and gentlemen. And now it is time to dive straight into our main attraction for this episode, and that is Stree. That's right, the movie Stree from 2018. from August 30th, 2018, Stree. And Laura, can you give me the best description you possibly can of the movie Stree? Because my mind was quite flabbergasted from when I watched this movie.
Yeah, I mean, kind of similar to what I said at the top of the podcast. So the movie is based on an actual like legend in India from the 80s called Oh Stree Repu Ra. Apologize for pronunciation.
No, I think you got that right.
It sounds right. We're going to go with it. Meaning essentially, a woman come tomorrow. So what the legend is and what the movie is, there's this town in India, a village, a town, whatever you would like to call it, Chanderi. And every year there's a 4-day festival that takes place. And during that festival is when Stree is on the prowl. Stree is a ghost of a woman who was killed by the people of the village back, hundreds of years ago. And as revenge for them killing her, she comes back during those 4 days and takes men unless they write, "Oh, Stree, come tomorrow," outside of their homes. So, the men need to stay inside, have this written on the walls, very similar to like Passover, in the Christian faith. So then we have these 3 friends living there. And at first they don't really believe in this, right? They're like, this is nonsense. It's not going to happen.
Baloney.
Yeah. And the main guy in this movie is Rajkumar Rao, who we've seen before in Barely Keep Barfy. He's in lots of other movies. I love him a lot. So he and his 2 friends, he meets this woman who only shows up in their town during this festival, and she wants him to make a dress for her. He is madly in love with her, but he knows nothing about this woman, right? He doesn't even know her name. She's unnamed throughout the movie, but still he's madly in love. His friend ends up being taken by Stree one night, and that's when his other friend is like, man, you gotta realize this woman is Stree. She's only here during this time. You don't know her name. Like, this is her. So Rajkumar Rao's character is like, oh my gosh, maybe you're right. But then we learn she's not Stree. She's trying to hunt Stree. So she comes back every year during this festival to hunt her. So her, Rajkumar Rao's character, his friends, and this older librarian gentleman essentially set out to end Stree's haunting. That was probably way more detailed than you expected.
No, that was good.
And then we can talk about the ending later. We'll stop there, right?
The film was also directed by Amar Kaushik in their directorial debut.
Right. And for his first movie, it's pretty good.
Yes, absolutely. It's a very, very interesting film. I was certainly surprised by the movie, and it was very funny to see that, men would go out at night. After they would go out, they would hear their name. They would be surprised. They'd turn around, and then all of a sudden they would disappear, and nothing would be left but their clothing.
Clothes. Dun, dun, dun. Why did she take them naked, I wonder? Just to humiliate them?
Yeah, I don't know. Is this supposed to be like irony or?
Well, because the ghost Stree, she was a concubine, so a lot of the men in the town who had killed her had relations with her. So maybe the taking of the clothes was, part of that, like a humiliation, like you did this to me, so I'm going to do this to you.
Yeah. Interesting. So she's getting you back.
Yeah, no, she's really getting you back in this movie. I mean, on the third night, she takes 30 men or something, a lot of them. So she's definitely getting her payback.
I enjoyed that it was the men's mothers too that were the ones that were always coming out too, just like, where's my son? And they'd be yelling for their sons, and they can never find them. They're just holding their clothes where is he?
Well, I think one thing that was mentioned when I was reading through, and something I thought of too while watching it, it's really interesting because in our society, today's world, as a woman, you're afraid to be out at night alone. Women, we don't go outside at night. So I think what was really interesting about this movie is it kind of took that and flipped it on on its head. You have these men now that are afraid to be out alone at night. Like there's even that one scene of
so that was kind of like the comedy of this movie, and it's like
is it comedy? It's like sad because women shouldn't be afraid to be alone at night. But like black comedy, yeah, like black satire, you know.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. They're trying to like show it for like the men's perspective. They're making it for like men to be like, hey, you can't go out at night. Like you're gonna get taken.
Usually it's women who feel this way, but this time it's you. Because we had that scene where there was like a husband or a son maybe, and the woman in his life, I don't know if it was his mom or his wife, was leaving, and she was like, you're gonna be fine, just stay inside. And he was like, don't leave me. Like, stay here with me. So yeah, I thought that was a nice commentary, I guess, on today's society. And yeah, that general fear for women that we can't be out alone at night. But in this movie, it's the men.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting.
I do think so. I watch a lot of horror films. Adam, I think you do, but not as much as me. But this together was both of our first like Bollywood horror film. It's I wouldn't say it's horror. It's more like comedy horror. But how do you feel it rates or stacks up against kind of American horror films that we see or Hollywood horror films?
Well, this is certainly very different than a lot of Hollywood horror because, well, first and foremost, the character Vicky is a tailor. And I don't think in a lot of Hollywood horror am I watching the main character act as a tailor. I
mean, but you have to remember this set in India. I think being a tailor is probably more of a prominent profession there.
Sure.
Than here.
I mean,
but,
yes.
But I get what you're saying.
That could be true.
Usually it's like jocks and airhead a-holes.
Yes.
in American horror. I get what you're saying.
You are correct. Jocks and airhead a-holes. Yes, that is usually what it is in Hollywood horror. But yes, the main character of this movie, Vicky, he is a ladies' tailor, as described in the plot summary you would find online.
Did you know that, fun fact thrown in here, Rajkumar Rao, who plays Vicky, or I think it's pronounced kind of Vicky in some points too. I saw that written somewhere, but we'll say Vicky. He actually trained, like had an actual tailor come to him for like a month and trained to actually use the machines and stuff. So he looked more like natural and like he actually knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he looked like he had some skill going on that machine.
Yeah. Rajkumar Rao, man. He can. I say that about lots of Bollywood like leading actors, but they can do no wrong.
I need to get some craft going on.
Yeah, there we go.
Tailor machine there.
One of the big things I wanted to mention before we moved on, like the difference between this Bollywood horror and American horror. I think this movie was a little more similar to more recent American horror films where, so I'm thinking of like It Follows or The Babadook. There's not a lot of scares. There's not a lot of gore. You know, it's a lot of slow pace intensity that kind of like builds you up and you get finally this resolution at the end. And I feel like this was very similar to that. There was a few times I jumped. I mean, I'm easily jump scares easily get me. So there are a few times like when they cut to the Stree and you see her. But overall, I feel like this movie is much more of that slow build that we see in more recent Hollywood horror films.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think this was much more slow paced. And also with this movie, as with a lot of Bollywood films, there was much more use of musical numbers in this movie.
There wasn't that many in this one, though. I was kind of disappointed.
Yeah, not a lot of musical numbers.
Like one big one, right? That's all I can remember, really.
But as with many Hollywood horror films, there's usually never any.
Can you imagine like Texas Chainsaw Massacre with a music number?
Yeah. Yeah, there's usually never any sort of emphasis on a musical number in a Hollywood horror film. So there's never any sort of it's never like a musical.
Yeah.
So it's nice that they have any kind of musical number in this Bollywood horror film. Mm-hmm. I think that's very nice.
Yeah. Kind of going along with that slow build, I think one of the better parts of this movie is the way that they did the unnamed woman, the lady, whatever we want to call her. They did really set it up in a way that you're questioning back and forth throughout the movie. Like, is she good or is she bad? Right? Because at first you're like, no, she's good. You know, Vicky loves her. He's infatuated with her. She's just this woman from out of town. But then, you know, she never says her name. She seems to like disappear and reappear instantly. So you're like, what's up with this? And she takes him out to the woods in the middle of nowhere and disappears. So again, that's when you do start thinking like his friends are right. Maybe she is Stree. Like, this is her. And then finally we see the two of the women together in a scene. And then we're like, wait a minute, it's not her. And then the way the movie ends, I don't know if we want to talk about that. Then you're like, who is this woman?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out pronouncing her name. Gayatri?
Well, it's not a name. I think it means like unnamed woman or something. She does not have a name. She's unnamed.
Oh, okay. The unnamed woman.
I see it in Wikipedia, but like everywhere else, she's unnamed. So I don't know if Gayatri means something else, you know, just means like the woman in India or something.
Yeah, because that is the woman that asks him to stitch her the.
Yeah,
thing.
Everything I was reading was just calling her the lady. Yeah, I honestly don't know what it means. Maybe it is a name they gave her, but everywhere I see, they just call her the lady.
Well, she is the greatest mystery of the entire film.
Definitely. Even at the ending, like I was just saying, we're still questioning and wondering, like, who is she?
It's like, is she Stree? Is she not Stree?
So maybe we should just kind of talk about how it ends, right? So then we can get into this question of what it is. So they meet this librarian in the city who is played by Pankaj Tripathi. He's also from Borelli Ki Barfi, so links there. But through him, they kind of learn about the lore of this woman, and that in order to defeat her, there is this victor in the, you know, that is the one that defeats her. And lo and behold, obviously, Vicky is the one who is, you know, the city's savior. So they go to where Stree lives, this abandoned building, and face her. And while they're kind of in battle with her, the lady is able to incapacitate her and tells Vicky, like, this is it. You need to kill her and get it done with. And Vicky's like, wait a minute. You know, she just wants respect. That's what she never got in her life. Right. So we can't kill her. We need to give her respect that she's due and she'll stop harming us. So he decides he doesn't want to kill her. And the lady is like, OK, that's fine. Just cut off her braid. We'll take her power then. And she'll be here, but she won't have the power that she's had. And you can give her the respect that she deserves. So that's what happens. You know, Vicky cuts off her braid, thereby removing her power. And then the city sets up like a monument to her as a respect. So at the very end, we do see Stree like standing in front of her statue. And then we are under the assumption, right, like she no longer haunts the city because she's gotten the respect that she feels like she deserves. But also at the end, we see the lady leaving town, as she always does. And she gets on a bus and she happens to have Stree's braid on her. She must have taken it from Vicky or something. And while on the bus, she like fuses that braid with her own. Then we're assuming she's taking Stree's power, and then she vanishes. So we're like, I don't think she's Stree. I think we can decide she wasn't Stree, but she's definitely like a witch, I think, or another kind of entity or power that wanted Stree's power and knew she could get it through Vicky. So that's why she kind of teamed up with Vicky.
She's paranormal.
She's something. So I think that sets it up really well, though, for a sequel. I wouldn't be surprised if they eventually make a sequel to this movie.
We'll have to see where that goes.
Yeah.
It's very interesting how all of that comes to a close there. But also very interesting that they had to protect themselves year by year so that men wouldn't get taken at night.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of Passover, because, you know, Passover, you have to put like the blood on your door frame, or otherwise your firstborn son will be taken. So Very similar. I apologize for my cat. She sounds like she's being tortured. I swear she's the most loved creature you will ever see in this life. She's opening the door.
We need to put blood on the door now.
Yes. Oh, RT, come tomorrow. I will say, how did you feel about the acting in this movie?
It was good. I don't think it was like mind-blowingly like crazy, but
I thought the three guys were funny. And they had like good chemistry together, the three friends.
yeah.
But I agree. I'm iffy about this movie. I feel like usually I really like Bollywoods, and this probably is one of the lesser liked ones that we've watched, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a fun movie. I just don't think it was just like perfection.
Yeah. Yeah. It is, as we were talking about sequels, this movie is part of one of the producers. His name is Dinesh Vihan. He has created this like horror comedy universe. So this is the first of 3 films. I don't think the 3 movies are related like character wise or plot wise. I think they're all just set in the same universe. So the other one is Roki from 2021, and then a future one called Badia from 2022. So it'll be interesting to watch those other 2 maybe and see like how they connect, or if there is connections between the 3 of them.
So some film facts about the movie Stree. Raj Kumar Rao was the one who suggested the title Stree.
Ooh.
When the story was being narrated to him by Raj and DK, the title was Oh Stree Kal Ana.
Oh, like the name of the, like, Oh Woman Come Tomorrow. Yeah, the full thing.
The title was Oh Stree Kal Ana. That's a mouthful, man. Oh Stree Kal Ana.
Our Hindu's gonna get much better as we do more and more of these Bollywood movies. So,
whew. So wipe the sweat from my head here. Okay. Raj Kumar came up with the title as it was the first word that came to his mind.
I mean, makes sense. Some
other fun facts. Raj Kumar Rao's biggest solo opening to date.
Really?
Apparently so.
Wow.
Some other facts. Kapoor finished filming half of her schedule within 10 days.
Oh, the person who plays the woman?
Yes.
Interesting.
And we already mentioned this, but it is based on the Indian urban legend, however you pronounce, Nailba, about a witch who knocks on people's doors at night. One
other fun fact, the like temple, big building palace that they filmed at, actually did have some mysteries behind it in real life. Like there's legends that people in the town knew about it. So they had like really strict rules that they created while filming there to make sure they didn't like upset any spirits or the balance or anything like that. Like, I can't even imagine having to film in a place that's like supposedly haunted. I would be losing my mind.
That would be ridiculous. That would be rough. When you're filming on a location and then out of nowhere you realize
a real ghost.
Sorry, spirit. My bad.
My apologies.
My apologies, Mr. Spirit
a movie.
and Mrs. Spirit. I'm gonna go walk over here now. And in other reviews for this film from Rotten Tomatoes, this film currently has a 79% from critics and an 80% from the audience.
I can see it. I know one of the reviews I was reading was that like this is a fun watch, not critically acclaimed, obviously, but it's fun and it doesn't take itself too seriously. I think the movie knows what it's trying to do, kind of in the vein, not totally in the vein of Scream, but you know, kind of similarly. Like it knows what it is. It's a horror comedy. So it plays that up. And that's why it's enjoyable, but it's not going to win any big awards.
Yeah.
It was nominated for 10 Filmfare Awards, though, which is, I think, the Bollywood version of the Academy Awards. So, I mean, 10 nominations is a lot for a horror film.
Yeah, that is very good.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, I think it's time for us to lay down the law and let the world know if we think this film deserves a slurps up or a slurps down in our opinion. Slurps up meaning we would recommend this movie, we would suggest it to our friends, our families, our relatives, or a slurps down, we think this movie is a disgrace. We think this movie is not good, or we see it on television and then we slightly just change that channel. So, Laura, in your opinion, does this movie give the slurps up, or would you give this movie the slurps down?
I think this is one of the few times I'm going to say sideways. I think this is my second time using that.
It's like a grace card. You're like,
I mean, it was fun. It was fun to watch one time. I really like, as I've said multiple times, Rajkumar Rao. It was fun. I don't think, though, I would be up to watching it again, in all honesty. So if you want to just watch, like, if you want a horror film that's not too scary or not too intense, and you just want to sit down at night and put something on, watch Stree. You know, it's an enjoyable watch, but I don't think it's in my, repertoire now of classic Halloween movies.
That sounds like a down.
I know. I guess I'll do down. I don't like giving downs.
I got it out of you, though.
I know. I think the only downs I've given were like Space Jam. Or Space Jam, maybe did I give the sideways too? I don't remember. Anywho's, Adam, what about you?
I know it's tough, but sometimes you gotta do it.
I gotta do it. I'll give it a down. I don't like to.
It's tough, but sometimes when we do it, we gotta do it. So I'm in the same boat here, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna give this one a slurps down, and it's one of those things where if the movie's on and I'm watching it, then so be it. I'm watching the movie Stree. It happens. And I happen to be watching it. But it's one of those things where I think, looking back on the movie now, I really don't think this is a movie that I'm going to want to watch again. Mm-hmm. That's not me necessarily saying that this is just a horrible, horrific movie. It's just me saying that I don't think it's one that I'm going to say it's.
Doesn't it feel horrible saying?
Yeah. I don't think it's just an overwhelmingly incredible movie. So,
yeah.
What I will say, though, is that if you are interested in this movie, I will suggest checking it out. If you think you want to check it out, go check it out. If you think you want to go check out a Bollywood horror movie and Stree happens to be that movie, check it out. Go turn this movie on.
On that note, listeners, please comment. I think we're going to make a post. This is my idea, Adam. Let's make an Instagram post. Comment and tell us the best Bollywood horror films.
Oh, yes.
This is the only one we've seen. I know there's one about a haunted house I really want to watch, but it's not streaming anywhere in the US, unfortunately, so I got to find it. But please, listeners, go check out that post, comment, and tell us what Bollywood horror films we should watch.
We'd love to find some more Bollywood horror films.
Definitely. Or just any Bollywood films in general you think we should watch.
But I think this one might not hold up 100%, so for that very reason, I'm just going to have to give this one a slurps down.
Bum, bum, bum.
Bam, bam, bam. And on that note, that brings us to the solo plug time. Where can we find you on the internet, Laura?
You can find me on TikTok at ArtieLou, ARTIELU. You've been hearing Artie crying this whole episode, so
she is a crier.
Go check out my TikTok there, or you can find me on Instagram at LHERLOCHER, or I'm linked to the Screen Slurps account. I'm tagged in some things, so you can find me through there as well.
And you can hear me crying some more on Instagram, Twitter, SoundCloud at Adam Meisner. I cry my windy pipes through music on SoundCloud. So original music, covers, You name it, what you want to hear, I will sing it to you. And that wraps it up for this episode of Screen Slurps. Be sure to follow us on social media at Screen Slurps on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And be sure to listen to us on Spotify, Ghana, or just about any other podcast streaming service out there. And if you enjoy what you hear, slide on over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star rating. It will help us a lot. And if there's any crazy movies you want to hear about, let us know. Leave a comment on one of our social media pages, and trust me when I say we will be sure to talk about it. So, closing out, I'm Adam Meisner.
I'm Laura Herlocker.
Slurps up, and we will catch you later.